let's look at the way too early top 25. This
It's
is mine.
beautiful. It's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
So much better.
So I will just tell you where I'm coming from with this before I read it off for the podcasters. If you're not a podcaster, obviously you can see the graphic here, but this is where I'm coming from. Okay, to me, what matters the most in college football right now is not talent. In fact, I would make the argument that since like the mid 1980s, I don't think that talent has ever mattered less. Now, don't misconstrue my words there. I'm not saying that talent doesn't matter. I'm saying I don't think that talent has ever mattered less since the midway through the 1980s, and that's really where you saw some of the freshman sensation. Players started to play quarterback because that's when freshmen could start playing in like the 70s. I think it was when they could actually start playing, and so then you actually saw teams go out and try to get more high school talent since they were able to play those players right away and do that kind of stuff. So that's really when talent first started to take off in college football. Don't get me wrong, talent still matters, but with how much talent is being spread across all of college football right now with the transfer portal, with NIL and everything else, I don't think talent is the end all be all that it was, 4 or 5 years ago. I think that talent is great. And if you have talent, that can be awesome for you. But coaching in a lot of cases can beat talent today in college football. And to me, that's there are 4 main factors you have to look at with a team. It's coaching, it's culture, it's development, and it's talent. Because another piece of this with the development is teams can develop throughout the season now. You can lose 2 games and still make your way into the playoffs and get to the national championship. Hello, Miami, right? They developed that team as the year went on. Kudos to Mario Cristobal and those guys to do that. But they developed that team as the year went on, and they turned into their best version of themselves. That's excellent coaching by Mario Cristobal. They had really good culture there. I'm not a big Miami fan. I do not like saying nice things about Miami. If you saw me tweeting last night, you would know that. but I have to give credit where credit is due. But the team that encompasses all of this right now in college football is Indiana. Coaching, culture, development, talent. And to me, that's why Indiana has to be the number 1 team in the nation. I saw somebody going off today on Twitter about how Indiana was losing all these players and losing all this talent and everything else. And my first response was, no, they're not losing all those guys. It's not a given that D'Angelo Pons leaves. Do I think he leaves? Yes, but it's not a given that he leaves. It's not a given that some of the defensive linemen that are juniors leave. It's not a given that Amari Farrell leaves. Like there are a bunch of juniors on this team that they could go to the NFL draft. But one of the reasons why these guys don't focus on the NFL draft as much as they focus on winning college football is because a lot of these guys don't have the traits or maybe the measurables that are going to make them super high draft picks in the NFL draft. So their best football in front of them is most likely going to be college football. And that's why they're focusing on them so much. It's not just that Kirk Cinetti went out and got a bunch of JMU players, right? He went out and got a whole bunch of really good players from really good places. Not really good places, but from good places, and put them together and said, this is a team that has great culture and wants to win. So my 1 through 25, I'll list it off and then we'll get Zach's thoughts. I have Indiana number 1, followed by Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame. I'm slightly regretting Texas over Notre Dame. I think I should have put Notre Dame over Texas.
We'll talk about it.
I may have put Notre Dame over Ohio State too. Anyway, we'll talk about it. Number 6, Miami, Georgia, Texas Tech, Michigan, USC at 10, followed by BYU at 11, Alabama, Louisville, Texas A&M, Washington at number 15, followed by Penn State, LSU, Houston, Iowa, number 20, Oklahoma, followed by number 21, Illinois, SMU, Virginia Tech, Pitt, and Utah, rounding it out. Zach, your first impression.
Yeah. So there's a couple people who are accusing you of Big Ten bias in the chat. We are a Big Ten show. We try not to be biased.
And that's fine. If people want to argue with me on it, that's fine. But I do have reasons for each team where I have them.
But I will say this. I don't think it's unfair to rank Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State 1, 2, 3. I don't. If I were I'd started thinking about a list, I just didn't have the time to get it out. I had thought about that. here's the thing. I'm always going to put the defending national championship at 1 unless there's a significant reason not to, right? So, but if Indiana were not the defending national champions, I'd put Oregon number 1 because I think Oregon's bringing back everybody. They've done a good job in the transfer portal. Like, I just think what they have coming back, I know they got blown out by Indiana, but you look at what they're coming back with and what they did against everybody else on their schedule, they could easily be the number 1 team in the country. So I think the top 2 in my mind has to be Indiana and Oregon in some order.
My only reservation with Oregon, and I there's a lot of people talking about, like in Indiana, Oregon, number 1 and number 2. So I appreciate that. My only reservation with Oregon, though, is they did lose both their coordinators. And so I do want to see what happens there. I put a lot of value on coaching, but at the same time, they brought back a ton of talent. So what does that look like to bring in new coordinators? If it was like really good coordinators elsewhere that they brought in, I'd feel a whole lot more confident in it, but they just hired from within, right? Which is not always a bad thing, but there is kind of a perception there that you hire from within, that you're not always making the best hire. You're just kind of rewarding your staff. And a lot of people feel like you can do that with one side of the ball, but you can't do that with both sides of the ball. But that's what Dan Lanning is doing here by doing both sides of the ball. So we'll see how it works out for him.
Yeah. Talk us through your thought process. You were even kind of walking it back a little bit, but Ohio State 3, Texas 4, Notre Dame 5. I agree with all 5 of your teams in your top 5. I'm not necessarily there on your order. Kind of walk us through 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, so I just think Ohio State has the most dangerous talent coming back. You look at Julian Sand, and I know there was some criticism of him earlier in the chat, and I get that. Julian Sand deserves criticism, especially for how he played against Miami. But he was a redshirt freshman. I think he's just going to continue to get better. He's going to continue to improve, and he was going up in the playoffs against a bunch of transfer quarterbacks that had a whole bunch of experience. Gunnar Stockton, that was his first year starting, but he had a little bit of experience before that. I say going up against, he was in the playoffs with. I don't mean that he played against them. Trinidad Chambliss, he really seen a lot of football, albeit not FBS football, but still seen a lot of football. He's played a lot. Carson Beck, very old, third year starter. That was huge for him. Fernando Mendoza, he's been starting for multiple years. There's just a lot of really good old quarterbacks, and Julian Sand in there. He's going to get older. And so I feel good about that. I feel good about Jeremiah Smith. I think the offensive line for Ohio State next year is going to come back improved. My biggest question mark with Ohio State is the defense, but they also brought in a lot of good transfers, and they're most likely going to have Matt Patricia back. And I think Matt Patricia is top 3, if not top 2, defensive coordinator in all of college football right now. And so you got that with, talent and production coming into the defensive room. I feel like that's something that you have to project highly. But Notre Dame does project very highly as well. CJ Carr coming back. He was a first-year guy. My biggest thing with Notre Dame was they don't have Jeremiah Love. And I didn't love that Notre Dame went out and got guys with more high potential rather than high production. And so that's one of the reasons why I kept them down there at 5. But I completely, in my mind, I'm thinking Notre Dame could kill it, and that high potential could come out and do really well. I would not be surprised at all if Notre Dame wins the national championship next year.
Yeah. I probably would have had it Indiana, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State. And part of this is my concern with Patricia. And I know Patricia's great, but he had 2 ultimate chess pieces in Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs. And I have significant questions of what that defense is going to look like without those guys.
That's fair.
And so I think that's just I wonder how much of a loss defensively particularly Caleb Downs, because they used him in so many different ways. But I agree with you that Notre Dame, it really is about potential, right? But some of the guys they got we as Buckeye fans know they got Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham. I'm like, those 2 dudes might be the best receivers they've had particularly Quincy Porter, in a long time.
Yeah.
So I just like Notre Dame. I agree. Notre Dame might be my early favorite to win the national championship next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
But
I like Notre Dame. I like what they have coming back. You know, they got their coordinator. I think they have both coordinators back, right? They didn't lose either one.
I
Um,
don't think so.
yeah, so that sets up well for them. I saw a lot of people saying that Miami shouldn't be top 10. I don't get that. You know, they've recruited really well on the defensive line and the offensive line. You know, they don't have Bain or Mesidor back, but they've still recruited really well, and they're obviously get some really good coaching on both sides of the ball there. Darian Minsa looks like he's going there, so I'm projecting that he will. If he doesn't, you know, that could obviously impact things here. And like I know some people are going to hate Michigan in the top 10 at number 9. You know, some people didn't like that they were number 11 on the On3 poll, but like, guys, Kyle Whittingham's a good coach. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
do I have some concerns? Yeah, I do, but they're not necessarily like concerns you can project. Like they are concerns that we need to see if they happen. You're not projecting that they're going to happen because they haven't happened in his career. It's just it's a different place, and we'll see what happens. But Kyle Whittingham's a good coach. He knows who he is. He knows who his staff is, and he's going to set them up well. And USC, they're right up there too. So USC is going to have Jada Mayava back. I think that they have some good wide receivers there to work with him. King Miller's back. Wayman Jordan's back in that backfield as well. We'll see what happens with the defense, but I feel confident on the athleticism and stuff for the defense. They just have to put it all together this year, and maybe that looks different with a Gary Patterson-led defense rather than a younger guy in D'Anton Lynn. So, I can understand if maybe there's a few people saying like maybe Michigan and USC down to like 14, 15 or something like that. But I think they're in a good spot somewhere between 8 and 15. Those two, I would have them.
Well, and I look at who you have below them, and I'm like, man, like the only team that you have in the 11 through 15 range that I would feel confident suggesting over them is Texas A&M. Because they do bring back a pretty good core.
Yeah.
But I say that I'm not saying I would do that. I'm saying that they'd be the only team that I would strongly consider.
And even Texas A&M, like they played an incredibly weak schedule.
Yeah.
And so when they actually started seeing real opposition, Miami, who did go to the national championship, Texas, they faltered because it was actual real competition.
Yeah.
You played a very inexperienced Notre Dame team, so.
Yeah.
Philip says, JR, how is Lane Kiffin not ranked? He is. He's number 17.
17th.
Yeah, he's 17. The big one I thought I would get flack for is I don't have Ole Miss ranked. That's
someone did mention that, but okay. Tell me about Washington, because you said the other night, and I agree with you. Like Washington's kind of turning on Damon Williams with what he pulled. Why 15th for Washington?
Yeah. So that's another one where it's kind of like a projection, right? Like this is what I think might be going on. This is what I think might happen, but I don't feel like I can project that players don't like another player, and so they're going to be a worse team. Like, so if somebody asked me like which team in the top 15 do you have that you think might not finish top 25, Washington's probably that one that I would say because of some of the turmoil there and everything else. But they kept Ryan Walters. They have a really good recruiting class coming in. I think that recruiting class is going to help them on defense. I don't think that they're going to be like outright starters, but I do think that they're going to be some good depth and help them on defense there. Washington doesn't have a super experienced wide receiver core, but I think if there's a quarterback in the nation, you could kind of get away with not having the super experienced wide receiver core. It's a quarterback like Damon Williams, right? So there are aspects of the team that gives me some concern, but if I'm just looking at the other teams like behind them, like I think right now, I'm not saying they will be by the end of the season, but right now I think they're better than Iowa. I think they're better than Houston. I like them better than LSU. I like them better than Penn State. When I went up the line, I just said, okay, if I look at the coaching and the talent, I think they keep going up until I get to Texas A&M, and I say, I think that's where I have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's fair.
All right. Anything else? Top 15?
No. I'm curious. The other team I'm curious about and this is particularly Big Ten related, Illinois loses quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
I'm certainly a fan of Burt, but I'm a little surprised to see Illinois in there at 21.
Yeah, so Xavier Scott comes back. Miles Scott comes back as well. Juice Clark is back too. They got a good transfer safety from the FCS and Levon Williams. And I think safety is one of those positions where you could see a guy come in and contribute almost right away. I have question marks about some other positions where that can happen, but safety is one where I do think you can see that. We saw it with Alex McLaughlin last year with Washington, right? I'm not saying Levon Williams is him or anything like that, but I am saying like that's proof that a guy can come in there and play well. Illinois actually got a whole bunch of like much older dudes. Like the transfer portal rankings won't show it, but they got 2 or 3 guys from the JUCO to come in that are really going to help solidify that offensive line. They have a linebacker that they brought in who was very productive in year 1 at Utah State. Zach, he was drafted in the MLB in 2018. 8 years later, he is in his sophomore season in college football. So, I think Illinois has quietly had a pretty good transfer portal, and I think Caden Hauser is going to be good. Do I think he's going to be Luke Altmaier good? No, not necessarily. But I think you have really good, really experienced running backs back there with Illinois. I think the offensive line is actually going to be improved this year with some of the additions they made. I think Jake Renfro is a more experienced center. He's actually older than Kreutz was, which is kind of insane because Kreutz just graduated. But that's the world we live in. You could tell that Illinois really made an effort to go out and get older players, especially in the trenches, and guys with experience. And I think that's going to pay off for them. They got a guy from JUCO who was on a Mormon mission, and he's like 23 and a junior or something like that, like a true junior. So if you look at the transfer portal rankings, yes, it does not look like Illinois did a very good job. But when you start digging in deeper into this stuff, which is the whole reason why we're doing all the transfer portal recaps, just did one with Iowa earlier. You can go watch that one. I just did one tonight with Carson for Illinois. We're going to release that one tomorrow morning. You guys can check that out. But when you really look at like what these teams actually did, it's a whole lot more encouraging for most teams, not all teams, but for most teams than what some of the rankings indicate. And I think Illinois is one of those teams that you're going to see that with.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So
good stuff. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Am I too low on James Franklin? Jimmy. Am I too low on Jimmy?
No, not too low. I mean, the fact that they're ranked is it's a big deal. Like Virginia Tech has not been in anybody's top 25 anywhere for like the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So
they brought in a number of players from Penn State that I think are going to be contributors, and they brought some of those recruits in too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of the ACC, they are the 3rd team in the ACC in your poll, right? Like SMU's 22, Miami 6. Oh no, Louisville. Sorry, they're 4th. Louisville. I missed Louisville.
I think Louisville's going to be good this year, man.
I think so too.
I think they can make the playoffs.
Yeah. So here's maybe a bold early prediction.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is a definite, but this is where I'm leaning.
Okay.
I think a team like Louisville will make it in over Ohio State.
Wow.
Because if you notice the chat, Ohio State plays at USC. They play Oregon at home. They play Michigan at home. They play Illinois at home. They play at Iowa. They play at Indiana. They play at Texas. And we've seen the committee is not going to give them grace for a 3rd loss unless you're Alabama. And I just have a hard time, unless if the offensive line like just completely like levels up. There's a few losses in there.
Yeah, I think if you're Ohio State, you have to beat Texas at the beginning of the season, and you have to hope that Texas remains good.
Yep.
Especially at Texas. if you lose that game, it could spell a lot of trouble for Ohio State. You know, we were talking about how Ohio State's schedule was maybe a little bit more difficult than people thought at the beginning of the year, and I still wouldn't say it was an easy schedule. I still think they had a more difficult schedule than a lot of people gave them credit for. But you know, they're definitely is going to be a much harder schedule to deal with this year than last year with all the teams on there. Penn State could be a team that makes the playoffs next year.
Yep. Yeah.
With that easier schedule as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Penn State gets to avoid Ohio State for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. Yep. So, hey, Max says to smash the like button, everybody. Yes, we always forget to ask you to do that. Please do smash that like button. Help us out and help more people hear about the Big Ten Huddle, the show. So Max says, will Purdue win a Big Ten game next year? They got to win at least one, right?
Let me look at their schedule real quick. I mean, we don't know the dates yet. That we don't know when.
I was just going to say, we just got a Big Ten press release today that the Big Ten schedule with all the dates will be released next Tuesday at 5:30. So, Zach, you're going to be here next Tuesday. So, yeah, we will probably be going over that schedule next Tuesday, kind of giving our teams that look like maybe they have a harder schedule, looks like they have an easier schedule, stuff like that.
Yeah. Purdue does have a couple of games that you could see them winning. Like they have Maryland on the schedule. They have Minnesota on the schedule. They have UCLA.
Is it at Minnesota?
No. It's in Indiana. It's at Ross Aid. They get Washington at Ross Aid. That's the way Washington has struggled on the road.
That's one. Yeah, they could get.
Yeah. They get Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin looks better, but how many times have we said that Wisconsin looks better over the past several years?
They better be better this year.
Yeah, they better. Bifickle. Listen, the game, like if Purdue beats Maryland, is Mike Locksley fired on the spot?
Depends on what time of the year.
Okay, if Purdue does what they did to like other teams that have played at Ross Aid and beats them by like 30,
yes,
is he done?
Yeah. On the field, fired on the field, Herm Edwards style.
Yeah. By the way, I've backed off my Kirk Ferentz retirement tour, and I'm back very much firmly on the fire Mike Locksley train. It's starting early.
Okay, I was so worried you were going to back off it.
This is all for you, Philip. Mike Locksley, he's gone this season.
Oh boy,